Welcome, everyone. We'll get started here in a few minutes. Thanks for joining. Well, good morning, ITS Heartland. We'll get going here. Welcome to the first session of the 2020 webinar series / annual meeting. My name is Kurt Rotering, and I'm the current past president of ITS Heartland. I would have been the president at the spring meeting if we would have held it in person. So this is my carryover to the webinar for the 2020 annual meeting. I'm excited for this 5-week webinar series, as we have a lot of good presentations, vendor updates, our favorite updates from each state director, and even an update from the president of ITS America, Shaylin Batt. The dates of the series will start today, obviously, and go every week for about 5 weeks, each on a Wednesday. Please note that we'll skip over November 11th due to Veterans Day. So our last webinar session will be on the 18th of November. So as we get started, I wanted to point out that we are celebrating 20 years of ITS Heartland. You can see the logo in the, upper right hand of the screen. We did have a fantastic celebration planned if we would have been in person this year. So we may just have to celebrate 21 years next year if we get to celebrate in person. We may also weave in some ways to celebrate the 20 years as we go through this 5-week series. So first and foremost, I would like to thank our sponsors. As you can see behind me, we have had fantastic support from our companies in the region. These sponsors have allowed us to provide this webinar series to all of you for free. So we will be recognizing them as much as we can throughout the series, starting now. So thank you to H&TB, Trans Systems, Walter P. Moore, ADCO, Street Smart, Snyder Associates, Econolite, HDR, Olson, SRF, JEO Consulting Group, Transcore, General Traffic Control, and Image Sensing Systems. So thank you once again. If we were in person, we would all be giving you a round of applause, and I'm assuming all the attendees are doing that as well right now. So links to each of these sponsors' websites are on the ITS Heartland website, so please, when you get a chance, go to our website and go visit them and look at the products and services that they all provide. I would also like to thank the current ITS Heartland board members as well as last year's board members who are continuing to help organize this virtual session. This will essentially be the 3rd annual meeting they have planned after our original spring date in person, then our fall in-person date, and now the webinar series. So thank you to board members. Thank you. Last, I'd like to thank Meetings Northwest. Amy and Jen and your crew, you have made this crazy year a little easier to manage with your knowledge and assistance throughout. So thank you, Meetings Northwest. All right, now a couple housekeeping items. The agenda for each week will roughly follow the same format. with a handful of vendors showcasing new and exciting products. We'll mix in some presentations from speakers from around the country. And then each week, one of our state directors will provide their update. Like this week, we'll have Iowa. The exact agendas will be emailed out prior to each week and will be found on the ITS Heartland website. Each weekly webinar will also be recorded and uploaded to the ITS Heartland website. So if you do miss a week, you can go back and listen and watch them. If you have any questions for the vendors or presentations, there is a Q&A chat in Teams. It is on the upper right corner, or it should be. If you open that up, you'll see Slade posted a welcome message already. We've asked to the speakers and vendors to try to keep an eye on that chat and answer as we go. If we happen to miss some questions, we'll be sure to follow up with the presenter and email them out after the session. So last housekeeping item, to find the restrooms and emergency exits, you are on your own. All right, pause for laughs. All right, so thank you once again to our sponsors, the ITS Heartland Board, Meetings Northwest, and thank you guys for being members and joining us today and throughout the 5-week session. Now, to kick off the 2020 ITS Heartland webinar series, we'll start with a vendor product showcase. Our first vendor is Image Sensing Systems. They are a sponsor and vendor and will kick us off. And as this is the first try, we'll try to get this going here.
Transportation leaders around the world depend on accurate and reliable traffic data to make crucial decisions for our roadways. Meet the next generation radar, RTMS Echo. The Echo has been built from the ground up and offers transportation engineers an easy-to-use, highly accurate radar that provides sophisticated traffic data. The RTMS Echo delivers an easy wireless setup, configuration, and management of the detector. Simple cabling. The standard Cat5e cable easily runs through poles and conduit. And new possibilities with a traffic data reporting engine that harnesses the power of accurate per-vehicle information and delivers exceptional detail regarding roadway usage. The RTMS Echo gives you the tools to maximize existing infrastructure and optimize the safety and efficiency of every city.
Living our lives and enjoying our family and enjoying things here in our happy home, and the phone rang. It was a nurse saying, "I'm calling from Hennepin County Medical Center. Your daughter's been in a very bad accident. You need to come immediately." And I kept saying to her, "Well, she's going to be all right. She's going to be all right." And her only answer was, "You need to come immediately." And so my wife and I in the car, hearts beating, pumping, knocking our chests out and not knowing what had happened, what was going to happen. And when we arrived at the hospital, finding out that she had been hit by a drunk driver coming the wrong way on the bridge. We all can do together, and I believe that each day we can make the world a safer place.
All right, great. Thank you, Image Sensing Systems. So our first speaker of the day is Rick Tene from Mission Secure Incorporated. Rick is Vice President of Government and Critical Infrastructure at Mission Secure. He graduated from James Madison University and has been in the cybersecurity business for over 20 years. So please welcome Rick. Take us a second to get this loaded. All right, looks like Slade's having a little technical difficulties on the backside.
Hello, my name is Rick Tene with Mission Secure Incorporated. I'm here to talk with you today about some of the cyber risks to transportation systems and some ways that you can attempt to secure them. We are finding that systems are far more vulnerable than people previously realized. The industrial technology has evolved over time, and the devices that you've been using in your traffic systems for many, many years, traditional devices, have gotten smarter and smarter over time, which is wonderful, except that they are now in a very dangerous sweet spot for hackers in that they are intelligent enough to be a good target for hacking and manipulation, but they aren't capable enough to really run their own cyber defense. So it really creates a very serious vulnerability in the operational technology space. And this applies to all sorts of different technologies, but transportation systems are particularly vulnerable. Also, as you're adding more smart devices and AI and smart cars, smart intersections, all those capabilities, we're actually not only creating more risk, but we're also making the target bigger and the desirability of hacking a traffic system go up. We are seeing more and more attacks on operational technology. When I talk about OT or ICS, operational technology or industrial control system, a traffic system is a type of an OT or ICS system. We see more and more attacks happening with the impacts of those growing on an annual basis. We are happily seeing more and more organizations starting to take this seriously, both from an organizational point of view, in putting someone in charge of it, because one of the problems in an OT cybersecurity situation is there's often an argument about, is this under the umbrella of the operational technology, the traffic group that has traditionally managed that system, or does the IT department, because there's cybersecurity involved, is the IT department in charge of this? And people are coming to different conclusions or some sort of combination, but it's important that really ownership of the risk be determined. And we are seeing more and more organizations start to put some budget towards addressing this issue. Of course, COVID has created real new difficulties in that area. We see every year the number and the impact of operational technology attacks. Often, the other dangerous thing is these are always underestimates, because many cyber attacks and the damage that is done go unreported because the people attacked do not want to advertise what happened to them. These are just some of the ones we see on a regular basis, these headlines like this, and they're just happening more and more and having a greater and greater impact. Why is this? Well, we've done a very good job in the IT world of securing our house from our IT house from cyber attack, right? You know, with firewalls and other great tools to protect an IT system. It's equivalent of putting on deadbolts on the doors and putting bright lights on our porch and bars on the windows and alarm systems and now Ring doorbells. Problem is that the hackers are now starting to recognize that as we've done a better and better job of protecting our IT, hey, the garage is wide open. Why don't I just go in through there where the OT is? And so we're seeing more and more attacks either initiate as in the case of the Target attack, famous from years ago, where the attack comes in through the OT in order to get to the IT is the goal. And that's what happened there. Or there are more and more cases now where people are recognizing the value of attacking the operational technology itself. So they might come in through the IT or through the OT and attack the OT itself, especially when we start to worry about terrorism and things like that. But as many traffic agencies and other transit organizations have discovered, ransomware or simply wanting to embarrass the organization can be issues that come up. So we really have an imbalance, and truly the our entire structure isn't secure unless both aspects, both IT and OT, are secure. And that's really the direction that we need to move. Some of the things that can happen, and we can provide you with much more detailed explanations of some of the things we found. Some of the things that can happen just down at level 2, level 1, level 0 of what's called the Purdue model. And if you're not familiar with that, it's simply a model that describes as we move from IT to OT, we're getting closer and closer to 0. And 0 in your case would be the street lights, the walk, don't walk signs, things like that. And everything above that becomes closer and closer to the IT network, and as we blend in between. And these are some of the things: the loss of view or control, the fact that devices can be made to behave in a way that is not desirable or send the wrong information. And that gets really scary as we start to get into SPAT data and talking about connected and autonomous vehicles. So that can be a really, really dangerous problem. So what do you need to do about it? Of course, we'd be happy to have a longer session to tell you more about sort of the details of the problem. But moving quickly into what can be done about it. Of course, assessments and design are great. A lot of companies can help you with that in understanding the scope of the problem. One thing I would warn against, because assessments are seem to be such an obvious first step, people tend to sometimes get really bogged down in them, and they assess and they assess and they assess. The goal isn't to be heavily assessed. The goal is to solve the problem, and often people aren't aware of what solutions can be. So the simplest thing is to keep assessing. So we definitely make some recommendations regarding moving quickly, because hackers are not going to wait for you to go through your assess, design, deploy process. So assessing and designing are great, but they should be done as quickly and efficiently as possible, even if less than perfect, to move to some sort of defensive posture to make your network less desirable than someone else's. It's like the old story. Remember, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the next city over, the next state over, and let them get attacked. Sorry to say that to the folks at the next state over. Well, traditionally, what we're seeing, it's funny to say traditionally because it's a fairly new field, but what we see mostly is visibility only. Now, this will be called cyber defense, and it is part of cyber defense. Awareness is very key. But just as in the common Geico commercial that you may be seeing these days on TV often, maybe too often, the joke about I'm not a bank guard, I'm a bank monitor, your bank's being robbed. That's really not that useful. It's an important element. You want that visibility. You want to better understand what's going on in your network. You want something that can monitor and detect and inform you, and maybe even collect data for after action to try to prevent it happening again. But that's not really true cyber defense. We would say that any true cyber defense system needs to include protection and correction. You need to have real-time protection. You can't react quickly enough to deter an attack in most cases. By the time you're being attacked, you've already been successfully attacked in most cases, because attacks these days are not done by a human in real time. They're pretty loaded, and the attack, once it starts, is happening virtually instantaneously. And now you're fighting an uphill battle to get something off your network rather than stopping it from getting its toehold in the first place. And it may put you in a situation where you have to replace all your ATCs, for example, because you can no longer trust them because they've been infected. So you need something that can do protection all the way down to that level 1 and level 0 devices. And that's the approach that we would strongly recommend, is that you put in a cyber defense platform along with policies and procedures and everything else, but a combination of software and actual hardware in line within your traffic network that can block attacks in real time and or block the effects of an attack. You know, some attacks, you're not necessarily going to keep them off your network, but if you can keep them from accomplishing their goal, then you've really resolved the issue. Of course, you want to eventually get that malware off your system, but if it's neutered, if it isn't able to do what it's attempting to do, then you really have effectively defeated it. So you want that sort of key in line. I'm not going to read these to you, but hopefully you can get these slides. I mean, it's really key that you have something that will be successful. You don't want to spend time and energy on something that is only going to solve a part of your problem. The approach that we recommend combines that visibility I talked about earlier with actual network segmentation, not virtual. There's a difference, and we can go into it in some future day perhaps. So you have real-time protection in line, and then also signal integrity is what is happening on your network, what you think is happening, actually happening, and that's where signal integrity comes in. This, just to give you a snapshot, this is what we often see as a common look of a traffic system. I'm sure each of you has maybe slightly different aspects of this, but this general diagram we hear is fairly accurate, and very often these communication paths are vulnerable. The ATC itself is certainly vulnerable. It can be physically accessed. It can often be remotely accessed. And that's really the heart and soul of that cabinet. What we would recommend is something that, with the right combination of software and hardware in place at the right points, you now can secure the communication to and from the cabinet and secure the controller itself. This is protecting the controller from being attacked, but it also protects the entire network, and not just the traffic network, but the actual city or county or state network from being attacked coming in through the traffic signals. So we would recommend an accelerated approach where your assessment, your design, and starting protection all start to occur within a matter of a few months. Not a 6-month or 8 or 12-month assessment period, then a design period, then a protection period. I mean, that can be done, but now you're well into next year before you're accomplishing anything, and it's more expensive to do it that way. We actually, are seeing more and more people wanting to do sort of a hybrid approach where you're assessing, design, and protecting really all at once. And that's the approach that we think will give you the most effective use of both your time and your money and get you safer, faster. Thank you very much. I'd love to talk with any of you in detail, and I hope we can all get back to live in-person conferences in the near future. And thanks to RTS Heartland.
Thanks, Rick. So next we'll have another presentation. This next presentation is from Mike Jackson and Anuj Sharma. Mike is a senior transportation engineer for Olson out of Des Moines, and Anuj is the CEO of Etelac. They will be providing an update on the ITS Heartland MComp program. Mike will start and then hand it quickly off to Anuj. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see here. I'll give you one more shot, Slade, and then I can do my computer.
for you better take it over, I think. I don't know, I'm getting it loaded for some reason now.
Okay.
We thought we would begin with a very brief description of the history of this project. The MComp Integrated Data Warehouse project began back in 2015. Following the systems engineering approach, Olson and Synesys partners worked with the ITS Heartland states to develop a project concept of operations, a requirements document, and a systems verification plan. These items were included in a request for proposal, which was posted in 2017. Italic was selected and signed their contract in December of 2017. System development occurred throughout 2018, and the Transportation Data Warehouse was made operational in December of 2018. We are now nearing the completion of the second year of the operations and maintenance and research phases of the project. Italic CEO Anuj Sharma will give an update on the project status. Anuj?
Hey, thank you, Mike. Thank you for the introduction. I would just like to begin this presentation by talking a little bit about why a data warehouse is even important for a city or an agency. As we can see in the past, the data was collected by humans or maybe by the tube counters, and it was really manageable by archiving the data in folders and spreadsheets. But as times have changed over past few decades, what we can see is that both the cost of computing has gone down significantly. The bandwidth required to send the data back has increased significantly. The cost per Mbps has gone down from approximately $1,200 to just $20. And also ability to store huge amount of data has gone down as well significantly. So as the chart shows that maybe in 1995, 1 gigabyte was costing us around $1,000, whereas now it is just 2 cents per MB. So you can buy a terabyte for $50 or something like that. With that, the agencies have started collecting a lot more data. And there are other sources of data which have come up which were not historically present. We have started receiving huge amount of probe data from different providers such as Enrix and here. The data formats are pretty standard in that case. The data which is available in sensors like Wavetronics on the side of the road can be recorded every 20 seconds, and those logs can be maintained. And even the video data for some of the cities and image repositories are available. So what we have seen in the past few years is that if in traditional ways that there were only say like 30 to 100 rows of data available for counts, in today's day and age you are getting 4 billion rows of data. So that is a significant increase from where we were and where we are going, and what it requires is having a good handle on this data so that it can be used to its maximum potential. And that's what this project was all about, is how can we form a data warehouse which has capabilities to do analytics on this data, as well as share this data for any users who might be interested in it. One other thing to mention is that it is not just traditional data which has increased, but also other data sources have come into play. Now you can get weather data very easily. You can get waste data coming in, and ability to combine all these data sources and come up with a holistic picture is what we are in for. So what Italic solution does is it combines all this data and stores it in a warehouse, a data warehouse which is easily accessible, and it also builds analytics on top of it. So the idea being is that once the data is in a cloud data warehouse where it is easily available and can be queried in a very fast fashion, you can build a lot of analytics on top of it. And some of the things which we provide as an end product after we have stored all this data, going from sensors to probe data, etc., we can provide One of the things is performance analytics. How are your roadways performing, which can be used for doing some return on investment calculation. We can provide information regarding how your infrastructure health is, so if a sensor is failing and things like that, which can be purely data driven. In addition to that, instead of restricting the data to only the AI generated by us, we can distribute it to all the other researchers and companies who would like to build on top of this data warehouse. So data warehouse essentially provides this uh, framework which can be used by other agencies to also build multiple models on top of it. So providing access to this data for compute as well as just easy way to download the data. And the final goal is, can we use this data in real time as well as in planning for more integrated corridor management for cities. So in terms of data sets which are available in MComp, vary from state to state. We have in Kansas, we are getting a lot of data in terms of speeds, incidents, sensors, travel times, etc. Iowa is giving us location, speed, and incident data. Oklahoma is sharing dynamic message sign data. Missouri is sharing detector data, event information, etc. And all these data resources are available for research teams and consultants to query and even internally to be queried. This one additional thing to mention is that the data provides also cross-pollination of ideas. So if a university in Kansas wants to look at the data from Iowa, they can easily access the data, and that increases the research capabilities where the Heartland states can provide joint increase in research. So in terms of tools which we provide on top of this data, the first tool is just a simple search and download tool. If you want to select a specific state, you want to download the data from a specific time to another time period, we generate a CSV file and it is accessible. It is made as accessible to you. There are obviously limits on how much data you can download, but if you need more data, you can directly contact us and we can set up other processes where you can do some batch downloads or bulk downloads. But if you need a couple of days of data from a specific state, that is very easy to download using our portal. You can also subscribe to streams. So the different states have shared their data streams with us, and if a user wants to just subscribe to a stream, they can go to our website and just subscribe to that stream. The other thing is simple analytics. We have provided tools where you can look at simple analytics, which has been done on the probe data, which is available through NPRMDS. So you can look across multiple states what the data quality is in terms of probe data, get an idea about delay cost, get an idea about which are the top congested segments in the Heartland states, reliability. You can also do a quick visualization of how the speed is varying. So if you're not looking for getting your hands dirty and would like to just get a good idea of how things are going in a state, you can use our analytics as well as a visualization tool to find more information about how the state is performing. So in addition to that, we provide quarterly reports to all the Heartland states where we identify which is the interstate which has highest amount of congestion. We also track trends over time. It has been very important, especially during COVID days, to see how the demand dropped and how it is bouncing back, and whether it has reached to a condition whether the traffic has resumed to a condition as it was before COVID. So those tracks are available, the trajectories are available, as well as a report on the sensor health. One of the interesting things since we started reporting sensor health is to find the track over time, especially in case of Iowa. We used to have around 13 to 15% sensor reporting errors with electronic sensor, and there were some recent adjustments made, which has significantly improved the amount of sensors which are either not reporting or reporting incorrect data. So finding this information, essentially, if we know what kind of improvements were done, you can easily associate how it has improved your performance. So this is a report which is generated on a quarterly basis and distributed across states. Another thing to mention is just a comparison of all the Heartland to stay together is very important when you're going out for federal opportunities and things like that. We have also entertained and generated some special reports, such as one seen here, where we wanted to see just the week after COVID, how the demand has changed and how has it changed for different sensors in different areas. So such reports are very quick to easy to generate, and we can generate it quickly and share it with a given agency. So once you have, and this again shows that the whole idea behind a big data warehouse is that you might not know all the questions you're going to ask the data set, but once you have it available, you can ask different questions. So the philosophy of just collecting the data for a specific problem is now past, and now we are in the age where we collect the data and then we ask different questions to the data. So this is just an example of that. Again, the same data can be used for research purposes, and one of the small projects which we were doing for the Heartland state involved coming up with a model for incident clearance time. So since now we have data from speeds, we have data from events, which we were getting from Waze for Iowa. Is it possible to come up with a better model for incident clearance time prediction? And that this is just a showcase of research that can be conducted using the data which is available through the data warehouse. So there were three main steps which were done for this calculation. The first thing is to calculate incident duration and detection of change of travel time, and finally coming up with a model which takes the type of incidents into consideration, and then finally comes up with a prediction of what the clearance time should be. So what we did was we took a specific I-235 or 35 from January to July. We identified incidents which were happening on that specific roadway in Iowa, and broke it down by whether it was a one vehicle crash, two vehicle crash, or different kind of events. And finally, once you know what the clearance times were, which were calculated using NPR-MDS data, we were able to build a regression model which would show that how maybe injury versus fatality increases the time from say 10 minutes to even longer time. The other factors which were affecting the incident duration were whether a trailer tractor was involved, whether the trucks were involved, what was the truck per lane, whether it was peak time or night time. So these were the factors which were shown up. This is just shows an example of what can be done once you have the data in place. So we are just doing this one research, but we all obviously are interested in other universities utilizing our database and data warehouse. Especially for universities, there is a possibility of giving them some compute resources as well, not just access to the data warehouse, so that they can do high performance computing on the cloud. So with that, I would like to open up to any questions. If you would like to check out the data warehouse, just go to www.mcom.italic.com. You will be able to access a lot of information. It is available for in open for anyone to access, but if you want to download the data, you'll have to generate a username and password. My email address is anuj.sharma@italic.com. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike and Anuj. Next we'll have our last vendor product. This one is from StreetSmart and Brady Markell. StreetSmart is also a vendor and sponsor. So we'll see if Slade can bring this one up. And Slade, you did not share the sound as well, so we can't hear anything.
I'm Mike Granger. I founded Street Smart Rental in 1999. We rent supplemental equipment to traffic control companies.
Today we have one of the largest fleets of traffic safety equipment in the country. It's all backed by our great team. Street Smart allows customers any size to bid on projects that they may or may not have the equipment for. They may have it, but they don't know for sure if they'll have it when the job actually starts 3 months from now. Our customers are able to bid on projects with confidence that they know they can get the equipment when they don't have it available. And what Street Smart does that is unique is that we do not provide any traffic safety services. We don't do any lane closures. We don't set cones, barrels. We don't have boots on the ground around the country. Those are our customers. We provide them equipment when they need it, where they need it, to help them bid more work and win more work.
When we talk with prospects or even our current customers about our flexible rental terms, sometimes their jaw hits the ground a little bit. We can provide very economical rental rates to them, which allows them to still add margin on their projects, so they can not only ensure the safety for their workers and the motorists, but also make a buck. This equipment is obviously out in work zones. Stuff breaks, we get it. But it's kind of what has helped define us is how we react when things aren't going great. So whether it's shipping out a replacement board because one got totaled, or walking a customer that's physically at the board on how to rewire the battery system, that's what our team does all day, every day, even on the weekends.
Our customers appreciate the fact that we're able to get them equipment anywhere, anytime. And we like to say around here that we're like the easy button.
That was easy.
All right. Well, thank you, Street Smart, for being a vendor and a sponsor to our webinar series. Next, we get our state update. This week's state update is from Austin Yates with the state of Iowa. Austin is currently the TSMO engineer for Iowa District 4. Austin graduated from the University of Nebraska with a degree in civil engineering and has been with Iowa DOT for almost 2 years now. We welcome Austin back to the board this year to take over for Tim Simodinas as our Iowa State Director. So here is Austin.
Hi, I'm Austin Yates at Iowa DOT, and I'm going to give you our state update for Iowa. Let me share my screen here. So we got lots of cool things going on here in the Hawkeye state. I'm going to go over our personnel updates, who's changing around and what we got open for vacancies. We have a new ATMS rolling out this year, and we have several efforts underway that we'd like to share with the group. And we got some RFPs coming up. So first off, on our personnel updates, Tim Simodinas has been promoted to our TSMO engineer, our statewide TSMO engineer. That's also the assistant director of our traffic operations bureau. He's replacing Donna Matulak in that role. We all know Tim, we all love Tim. He's a fixture of ITS Heartland, and we look forward to seeing where he will lead our traffic operations bureau. And he's already told us he will only, from this point, he will only answer to his eminency. So I guess we're not going to call him Tim anymore. We're happy to welcome Alex Jansen as our TIM coordinator. He's replacing Jared Smith. Alex came to us from our motor carrier services group, and he's also a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard and Reserve. So we have vacancies also, first of which is Tim's vacancy when he was promoted from our ITS engineer. So that position is open, and it is closing on October 11th. We also have a District 1 TSMO engineer. That's District 1 is our Central Iowa, pretty much our Des Moines metro area. That position is already closed, but that'll be the second District TSMO engineer after me. I was the first one in District 4 in Council Bluffs. So District 1 is the next one, and then after that is District 6, which is Eastern Iowa, which includes Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and the Quad Cities, and that'll be posting soon. So if you're interested in any of these positions, hop on over to our careers page on our iowadot.gov website. Our new ATMS is coming out soon this year. We've been working hard on it. We are switching from TransSuite by TransCore to OpenTMS by Q-Free. So right now, our cutover date is scheduled for December 7th of 2020. That day has a lot of negative connotations. Pearl Harbor Day, death and destruction, torpedoes, explosions, and many other unsavory aspects come to mind when you think of Pearl Harbor, like certain movies. We got all kinds of efforts going underway right now. Unfortunately, we lost a build grant application that was for a TIM training facility in Newton, Iowa, which is about half an hour east of the Des Moines metro area. So we're looking at other opportunities, what we can do for a state TIM training facility. We're kind of partnering with our Iowa Pork Producers Association. They are putting out a series of webinars and training for livestock involved crashes, and we are willing participants in this. That's something that's real common in this part of the country, and we can always get better at that. We are finishing up our intersection control evaluation tool. HDR is helping us out with that. This is, leading people from, starting at basically yield sign, two-way stop control, elevating up to all-way stop and signals and any different form of intersection control, kind of our spectrum of alternatives on that we can be using internally as well as sharing with our local partners. This is different from our ICE Ops tool, that's a segment-based operations scoring tool used for project prioritization. So this ICE is for intersection control evaluation. It's also different from vanilla ICE. And we are also, lastly, we are restarting our ITS asset management program. That's something that SRF is helping us out with. That was halted at the end of 2019 due to some financial constraints. And lastly, we have some RFPs coming out, an RFP coming out, our statewide ITS device maintenance contract. That'll be coming out this fall or this winter yet in 2020. So that's what's going on in Iowa. Sorry we couldn't get together in person, but everybody stay safe, stay sane, and we will get together soon. So let me stop sharing this. Can find my mouse. Problem with 3 screens. So thanks for tuning in and enjoy the rest of the conference.
All right. Well, thanks, Austin. Appreciate that update. We always love our state updates, and I enjoy the vanilla ice jokes as well as the other jokes. So, all right. Well, now I'd like to thank everyone for sticking around for our business meeting. And Slade, you have music playing in the background. As I mentioned earlier, today's program and all the corresponding weeks following this were put on for free because of our great sponsors and vendors, as you see them behind me. So please, if you have a few minutes, don't hesitate to reach out to them regarding new and upcoming products and services. I'm sure they would all love to talk to you. I would also be remiss if I did not talk about all the great work our board has done the last 2 years, and wanted to recognize a couple of people who dropped off the board but have been willing to stay on throughout the summer to help bring our meeting series to fruition. First is Randy Johnson. He was past president last year and had a great presidential year the year before. Tim Simadinas, otherwise now known as His Eminency, and then Jessica Sherwood. They all dropped off the board this last year, but I'd like to thank them as well and give them a round of applause. So thank you for all the help this year. Although they have moved off the board, they put in countless hours planning the previous 2 meetings and have helped get this one off the ground as well. And our current board, which has been involved throughout, you may see some different positions, but many of the same faces are there. So myself, I've moved to past president, and therefore Slade Engstrom has taken over as president. Lonnie Birkland is our one new face to the board. Lonnie is going to be vice president, and we'll get to plan our 2022 meeting in Nebraska. I'm sure most of you guys all already know Lonnie. Lee Bear stays on as secretary. Matt McLaughlin, we'll see him here in a little bit for our financial update. He is our new treasurer. He is another new old face. Matt missed us so much, he had to come back and take on the treasurer role. Austin Yates, who you just heard from, is our Iowa State Director. Sherry Hilliard is our Kansas State Director. Alex Wassman is our Missouri State Director. Matt Baker has moved into the Nebraska State Director role. Marty Ferris is the Oklahoma State Director. Lindsay Frances is our Consultant Director number 1. Anthony Gallo is the Consultant Director number 2. Jamie Gilbert is our Vendor Sector Director. We're looking forward to the cornhole toss at the next in-person meeting, try to continue that. Sarah Peters is our Communications Director. Henry Brown is our Academic Sector Director number 1. And Ron Barnes is our Academic Sector Director number 2. So sadly, there is no Eye of the Tiger walk-up music to announce the board for 2020, 2021. But I can tell you with this unusual year we are having and have had, you have a great board. For all who are still listening, the board generally is in some level of planning for about 3 years worth of meetings. So we have this meeting we're working on. We'll have next year's meeting in Overland Park. And then, as we mentioned, the 2022 meeting is slated for Lincoln. So we're already thinking about where to hold that and how to plan that. So delaying one of these meetings a few months causes some hiccups in that typical schedule that we do with planning 3 years in advance. So lastly, please note that the date and time for the next meeting, 2021, will be in fall. We've pushed it from our typical spring date to November. So it is November 8th through the 10th. We had the opportunity last week to move this meeting to the fall, and the board decided that to give us the best chance of having an actual in-person meeting in 2021, we are moving it to the fall option. The hotel in Overland Park was gracious enough to find a date for us, so our hope is we'll be able to actually meet in person and see all of you guys and hear your laughter to all the corny jokes here in fall of 2021. And there you see the slide with those exact dates. So please mark your calendars. Obviously, we'll send out more information as we get closer and into 2021, and hopefully that date can stand and we can actually hold that meeting. Then in 2022, as I mentioned, we'll be in Lincoln, and we're going to hope to go back to our normal spring dates in 2022. Fingers crossed. So that is it. Thank you all again for your efforts. I know this was a little less than an hour. We have scheduled 2 hours for these every week. Some will take up closer to the 2 hours. Some will be shorter, like today's. Just depends on the content we have for that week. So again, these will be recorded. These are being recorded and will be placed on the website. So once again, thank you to all of our sponsors located behind me for allowing us to do this for free. I'm going to now turn it over to our treasurer, Matt McLaughlin, for the final part of our business meeting. And take it away, Matt. We'll get some content shared here in a second. And please stick around for the financial meeting here, and then we'll let you go on your way.
Okay, can you see my screen?
We cannot.
Okay.
Hit the send live, and we see a...
Oh, let me try it again.
Everyone's still looking at my lovely face.
Okay. It says presenting, so let's see if it comes through.
Yep, there we go.
All right.
See the sponsor slide for the IT.
Very good. Yep. Okay, very good. Yep, just gotta show our sponsors again. Huge thanks to them. We won't go through this typical detailed monthly financial report that we normally do. Instead, kind of put together a higher level, simpler summary here of how we're standing with this COVID year compared to more of a typical year from a financial perspective. So on the left side of the green line, our typical year looks something like that, where our revenue and expenses balance out to roughly just over $100,000. That on the revenue side of things, that covers our annual meeting, sponsors and fees that come in, as well as membership dues. And then on the expenses side of things, pays for the annual meeting, hotel costs, food costs, et cetera, related to the big in-person meeting we typically have, as well as support from Meetings Northwest and some other smaller miscellaneous expenses. We've been carrying an operating reserve of about $60,000 over the last several years for unexpected expenses. Haven't really had to use that in the past, but props to past leadership on the ITS Heartland board for maintaining some sort of reserve over the years for something unexpected that may occur. So on the right side of the green line, you can kind of see what our revenue and expenses look like for this atypical year. Much less on the revenue side. Between the webinar sponsorships and membership dues, it's about all we anticipate bringing in for revenue, and it typically is going to be less because on the expenses side of things, we don't have the high costs of an in-person annual meeting. We do still need to carry expenses for Meetings Northwest support. And the other thing I'll point out is there were some unexpected expenses that will be coming out of our operating reserve this year. We were fortunate in that we were able to get out of most of our contractual obligations with the hotels and whatnot. In fact, we got out of those. Which could have been tens of thousands of dollars, but we were able to avoid that just with the pandemic. Some of the unexpected expenses we are incurring, though, are related to refunds and processing credit card fees and that sort of thing. But it's only about 10% of our operating reserves, so we're only using a little bit of it, and we'll be able to continue to carry more operating reserve into the future and make do with continuing to deliver value and content to our members via these webinars. Again, just want to thank the sponsors again for everything you've done helping us navigate through this unprecedented time. And we are very much looking forward to this webinar series through the fall here and seeing many of you again come in and participate, listen, and just be a part of our great organization as we continue to work to provide value to you all and information to everybody. Thank you for your time today, and we will hopefully see you again at the next webinar. Thank you.